And so good morning again. If you don't know me, I'm Reverend Elisha Christopher. I'm the spiritual director and the senior minister of the Center for Spiritual Living here in Santa Cruz. My pronouns are they and them. My ancestors truly come from all over the world. Those who immigrated to this country from Europe, we know, came from Ireland, Scotland, Austria, and Holland. I do have ancestors indigenous to the Americas as well. And as many of you know, and if you don't, the two great teachers in my life were Reverend Grace Lovejoy and Dr. Jean Houston, who are also both now my ancestors, who I bring with me. It's good to be back. Many of us were together last week downtown. We had our Interfaith Pride service, which we do each year to kick off Pride Sunday, which was a beautiful occasion. There's about 12 spiritual communities, Buddhist, Christian, Jewish, New Thought, and others who participate in that one service we do together each year, and it's really quite special. And thank you to those who volunteered last week and helped manage our booth. This was the first year that we had a booth at Pride, and that was just grateful to everyone who showed up and supported that process. This month, as you know, is Pride Month, and the theme across Center for Spiritual Living for June is a higher, deeper love. And I've been thinking a lot about that theme, contemplating this month. And there's this thing that's been on my mind now for a while that, June is Pride Month. And also this coming Friday is Juneteenth. And then we have summer solstice. And then we go into the 4th of July. And there's something about all of those things coming together that just remind me of the emergence of love in the world, right? That Pride is about just the pure acceptance of love in all of its forms and the love of the individuality that lives in all people. And then Juneteenth, recognizing that day when, the last enslaved people in Texas learned of the Emancipation Proclamation, and when the end of institutionalized slavery in the way that it was happening then ended. It has continued in another form. That's a different story for another day. But that represented, again, right, the freedom that is meant to be available, that is our inherent right as human beings, that our freedom to make our own choices, that our freedom to be ourselves, that our freedom to have sovereignty over ourselves is a divine right, is a God-given right. And then I think about all that in relationship to summer solstice, which is that time when the sun is shining brightest, when the day is the longest, when the darkness is the shortest night of the year. And again, it makes me think of all of that love, all of that freedom, that light of the divine shining fully into the world, right? And summer solstice is about that height of the light. And then 4th of July has a weird feeling this year to me, is also the 250th anniversary of this nation and the Declaration of Independence. And there are many things I think it is supposed to represent. There are many things it's coming to represent in a lot of other ways that feel very different. But I think that in principle, that the 4th of July is supposed to be, again, about a declaration of our freedom as not only individuals, but as a nation, to live in a democracy, to live with that inherent freedom that is supposed to be given to each person. And I've just been thinking about all of this coming together. And I think next year I'm working with a group of folks on a social justice forum. We're going to be a sacred activism social justice forum. We're going to be offering for the Centers for Spiritual Living, and you all will be hearing much more about that very soon. But I keep thinking that in the next couple years, I think I want to found a special time within this month, and maybe it's June 1st to July 4th, right, where we have a season where we recognize the potency of love and freedom, right, and take all of these things that fit into that little parenthesis and recognize this time in the middle of summer, at the beginning of summer, in the height of the warm time of the year, that we get to remember what it feels like to be in the fullness of love, in the fullness of freedom. And, we talk a lot about oneness in this space. We talk a lot about love. We talk a lot about how our job is to manage our own thinking and our own selves so that we can show up for others and for the world, right? That so much of our individual work begins in consciousness, and yet there's so much taking place in the world that really, truly feels like it needs our attention. And, we've brought our attention to these quilts that are in this space in the last number of weeks. And each of these quilts around the room represent something like 700 names of children in Gaza, babies who never reached their first birthday. Right? And we've talked in the number of weeks about how this is a deep pain in our collective consciousness and in our society. And some folks in the community of Santa Cruz said, there's nothing I can do about this, but perhaps I can at least give my heart to it. I can give my love to it. I can give my creativity to it and make this beautiful art that in some way acknowledges the pain, but does something with it, especially when we don't know what to do to change the situation. Right? And to me, that's an act of love, right? That is a way to take a deep thing that has cracked our heart open and find a way to pour our love into it. And I think that that's our work right now in the world, is to manage to find ways of looking at the pain of the world, looking at the things that aren't working, looking at the struggles in our own lives that we're dealing with, and finding a way to bring the fullness of our love to it. That our job is to love through, to love because, to love anyways. Right? And our mission here at Center for Spiritual Living, after our strategic planning last year, we kind of refocused, and we've named our mission is to reveal and nurture our sacred nature. That is the one thing that we are here for. And everything else we do supports that. And I really believe that the one issue that is plaguing all of humanity, that is manifesting as all of the ills of the world, the one thing, if I could point to one thing that is the cause of all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the oppression, all of the war, all of the genocide, all of the environmental degradation, all of it is because humanity as a whole has lost touch with the sacred. That if we remembered that the earth herself was sacred, and all of the waters and all of the resources were sacred, if we remembered that every animal and every plant and every living thing is sacred, if we remembered that every person, no matter who they are, no matter where they were born, on what side of what border, under what nation, under what government, from what people, if we remembered that all people, that all beings, and that all things are sacred, truly and deeply, there would be no room for hatred. There would be no room for oppression. There would be no room for abuse. There would be no room for using for our own benefit. Right? Because if we remember that all is God, that all is divine, that all is sacred, then our job is to love everything, to love everyone, and to give our love to everyone and to everything, and to recognize that every bite of food is sacred, that every human life, every single person we come into contact with is sacred, and that our job is to cultivate that sacred nature, to become aware of it, and then to hold it as something precious, and look for the sacred everywhere we go. Right? And I have a question box next to the prayer box, or and folks are invited to put questions in there to give me to contemplate. And I received a question a couple weeks ago that was asking about, if all is sacred and all is God, how does this genocide in Gaza, or how does these other things that are happening, how does this fit into a divine plan? How does this fit into it all being sacred? And the thing is, in Science of Mind, when we talk about God, we're talking about the nature of existence. We're talking about the very ground of being, that everyone and everything is made of God stuff. And I had a conversation with Gitanjali last week, and she was sharing a practice of simply walking through the day and in every moment choosing, am I moving towards God or am I moving away from God? In every interaction, in every feeling, in every little thing that comes up, am I choosing to move towards the sacred, towards the one, towards the love, or am I choosing to step away from the love? Am I choosing to step away from God, right? And so we have this ability to be in conscious choice, to be moving towards the oneness or creating the experience of separation from that oneness. And I don't believe that God is a being or, a person in the sky somewhere that has a plan at all. I don't think there is a divine plan. Just like there's no intended outcome for evolution, right? Evolution is this force that causes things to become more complex, to evolve and grow throughout time, that includes extinction of whole species, that includes the cataclysms that happen on the planet, and then from the great extinctions, a new thing emerges and life happens. And so God doesn't have a plan. But spirit, the universe, the divine, contains patterns. It contains tendencies. And our job is to be the place where that tendency towards love, that tendency towards evolution, that tendency towards the more is cultivated and practiced in a way that is conscious and aware and participatory. And that when individuals or groups or nations have lost sight of the sacred, have lost sight of the oneness, do not have that divine connection in their awareness, then whole groups of individuals can make choices to just keep stepping away from the truth, to keep moving away from God, to keep moving away from the love. And I think that's what we're seeing in the world, right? That these terrible things that are happening across the world, these are not part of God's plan. This is the symptom of a society and a human collective consciousness that is not in line with God, that is out of alignment with the truth of who we are, that is out of alignment with the love and the oneness and the interconnectedness of all life. And that we have this horrible, beautiful thing called free will, right? Which allows us, the universe is not like there's a divine plan, there's a divine pattern, you have to follow it, you have to be in the love, you have to evolve, you have to love each other. But when we do, that's where the magic of God awakens. That's where the love of life, that's where the potency and the power and the magic that we feel in this space wakes up, because we're tuning towards it. And so just imagine for a moment that on some level we are all one. Everyone on this planet, we are all connected. And on some level there is a collective consciousness of humanity that is choosing and creating all that is happening in the world. And much of what's being chosen from that consciousness is coming from a mind state or a belief in separation, of a lack of love, of a lack of reverence for the sacred, of a lack of alignment with the truth. And that our job, each and every one of us, is to pour into that collective consciousness more and more alignment, more and more love. That if the collective, if all of those in power who are causing all the harm and the hatred and the oppression, and they are causing all of this and we see it, and then we take the hatred into our hearts and we hate them back, what have we done but created more hate in the world? So our job is to figure out how to build the love within us. If we find the deep pain, find a way to turn it into art. Find a way to wake up the love in your heart. Find a way to be the love right where you are. There may be children dying in Gaza today, and I can't do anything about that right now, but I know that there's people in this room who are feeling alone, who are dealing with a diagnosis, who are struggling with something, and we can be there for each other. We can be the love, even if we see I can't do anything about that thing over there and it breaks my heart open. Let that broken, open heart look for the places where you can give that love, where it's maybe sitting right next to you right now. And so this whole, idea this morning is really about expanding our capacity to love. And I was listening to an old recording of Gene Houston. Wow, time is weird in the last month. I guess that was a couple weeks ago when I was driving up to Ashland for the memorial. And she was talking about the pain of the collective experience of humanity on earth. And she was equating it and I'm not going to get her great story perfectly right now, but she was equating it to the process of making wine. That the human soul, the soul of humanity, is being squashed like the harvested grapes. And it is being smashed, and it is being broken, and it is being destroyed. And in the process, it's being turned into something else. And that after the breaking, after the smashing, after the grapes are destroyed, then the fermentation process where something else starts to grow, where something else starts to emerge, and then this purified, deep, magical thing emerges. And what if we as humanity, we are right now being squashed by life itself? And maybe evolution is working underneath all of this. It's terrible and horrible to see how it's out picturing, and it breaks our hearts open. But maybe at some way in this process of our hearts being broken open and being stamped upon by the pains of life, maybe we are being turned into something else in the process. Perhaps the collective consciousness of humanity is awakening because of the pain. And that's the story I choose to continue to tell. Is that I can't do anything about what's happening to any individual. But I maybe can see that the great pains of the world are finally cracking our hearts open in a way that we as humanity are willing to do something differently. And sometimes it's only when it hurts enough that we actually make the change. And humanity's been hurting itself, ourself, each other, the planet, for 400 years, 2,000 years, 10,000 years, pick a start point. We've been doing this for a while. And all of the tipping points are coming together. We live at this magnificent moment in human history where all of the tipping points of all of the things that haven't been working are coming together. And this is like evolve or die moment for humanity. Humanity could be gone by 2100 or 2200 if we do not shift our story. And so the pain pushes until the vision pulls, right? And the pain's a pushing, folks. And these are birthing pains. And perhaps we can birth a new version of ourselves in the process and bring about a new version of humanity in the process. So take a deep breath. And let it go. If it's comfortable, close your eyes and breathe in again. And let it go. And so as we breathe together, let us just breathe a little deeper. As many of you often hear me say, breathe in again. And know that you are being breathed by God. That the one life is living and breathing everyone and everything. That it is the sacred the divine, the eternal, the true. The one life is living and breathing as all of existence. It is this thing that I call God, but some of us may use a different word. Use whatever word you feel comfortable with. God, spirit, consciousness, energy, life, the universe. It's all one thing. It's all one sacred, beautiful, shining thing that even down at the quantum levels of the quarks and the particles, it is all light. That the universe, that the earth, that our bodies are light itself. We are the divine. We are God. And so our job in this moment is to become aware of that. To choose in this moment to allow our eyes to see, to allow our heart to feel, to allow our words to speak, to allow our actions to reflect this truth that all is sacred. That each one of us is connected to the earth life, that each one of us is connected to the generations, that each one of us is connected to each other, that on some level there's only one of us here, and that one is looking out through each and every one of our eyes. And it's only when we do not know that truth, it's only when we see something else looking back at us rather than the one, that we can then choose to do all the things that humanity does to each other. But it's when we choose to see, when we allow God to see through our eyes, when we allow the divine to shine through us, we can look for ourselves in each other. We can see God shining back at us. We can remember that everyone and everything is precious, is sacred, deserves to be nurtured and loved and cared for. What if we remembered that humanity's job on this planet is to be the stewards of life, not the users and destroyers of life? Then what if we are here to cultivate the love, to lift each other up, to hold each other, as we move through the process of remembering who we are? Because when we remember who we are, we remember that we are one. And anything we do to the other, in fact, we do to ourselves. And so let us be a people who are continuously choosing to look for God, to move towards the divine, to remember the sacred. And each and every day, find it in the little places where we can share that love. If the world is cracking our hearts open and we are feeling that pain, then let us find the places where we can share the love, that we can make an impact, or we can pour our love into someone else. Because the more we hold the love, the more we expand the love, the more love there is. And truly, my friends, love is the only thing that is going to heal what is going on here. And so let the force of love, the power of love, move through us in everything we do. Let us be grateful for that thing that is breathing us. Let us be grateful for the life force that is animating us. Let us be grateful for this great gift of life. Let us be grateful for the interconnectedness of all of life. Let us be grateful for this planet, which gives us everything that we need. Let us be grateful that we are alive and breathe, and remember ourselves as being breathed. Each one of us is breathing every moment of every day. But something else entirely happens when we choose to pay attention to that breath, to breathe on purpose. It can take us deeper. In the same way, we are divine. We are God in every moment. But when we choose to be it on purpose, when we look for it, when we remember it, something more awakens. The more of us awakens. And so let us awaken to the sacred nature of who we are. Say with me, and so it is.